It is officially the home stretch, the late stages of this Prismatic Draft League regular season. Week 7 out of 8, and we have an exciting matchup for you for sure. I don't know if you can hear the snowplow outside, by the way. It has been snowing heavily for the last 2 days, and in fact still is snowing heavily right now, but they're already working on plowing that. Hopefully that won't be too noisy. Anyway, I don't have anything more to say about this week before we just jump right into the standings, which going into week 7 look like this. The Peaceful Porygons, no longer undefeated. They took their first loss last week, but still in first place at 5-1. And then we have 5 different teams piled up together here at 4-2, taking up all of the remaining playoff spots. 6 teams will make the playoffs, and 6 teams right now are 4-2 or better, including our own Halifax Masquerainmen, who by defeating the Foraging Furrets last week, caught up to them in a perfect tie in the standings. If the playoffs started right now, I believe we would play them again in the quarterfinals. But with the standings so tightly packed, there's still a lot of room for things to be shaken up, including which teams will make the playoffs. The regional Reshiram's have been on a hot streak lately and are breathing down our necks, and so are the Drowsy Torkoals. And there are even a couple of teams down here that might still have a chance if they win their remaining sets. I don't know. I'm not going to do those calculations. But yeah, still a lot to play for here in these late weeks of the season, and all the more so for the Halifax Masquerainmen this week because our opponent is another one of these 4-2 teams, the defending champion Varsity Farmboys, the team that knocked our Alaskan Absols out in the quarterfinals last season and have come back potentially even stronger this season. Though they do have a couple of losses on their record, which we'll talk about in a moment. This is what the matchup looks like. If you've been watching this season, you're familiar with what the Varsity Farmboys do. This team is very like the one that won the championship in Season 6, but with a number of, I think, improvements into the draft plan, making it even scarier than the one before. So they can run game plans through the Archaludon, which, apart from just being one of the fastest Pokemon in the format, is also able to rapidly set up by having Greninja target Water Shuriken into Archaludon. Water Shuriken is a priority multi-hit move, so extremely difficult to deny that setup, and it's also a number of weak Water-type hits resisted by Archaludon can, with loaded dice on the Greninja, get it to +4 or +5 defense with stamina boosts very quickly. Of course, they also could do like a fast manual Rain Dance thing if they want and get Archaludon set up that way, or they can just use Archaludon as the strong Pokemon that it is. We have the Nightmare defensive duo of Garganacl and Blissey. Garganacl extremely bulky on the physical side. We've often seen it run a Maranga Berry to patch up its special defense. It can set up with Iron defense. It can grind opposing teams down with Salt Cure, heal itself with Recovery. Blissey, extremely hard to break on the special side, also has Recovery, I believe, in Soft Boiled. I think that move still exists. And we've seen them run Calm Mind sets in the past. Plus, like Garganacl running the Maranga Berry, Blissey can be carrying a Key Berry to help patch up its physical defense. Comfey I've talked up repeatedly as a way to keep all of those bulky Pokemon healthy. Of course, with Triage, it gets like +3 priority, I think, on its Floral Healing. But that's actually not how we've seen the Comfey play most weeks. They've been bringing Calm Mind Comfey very often and setting it up and using it as a win con with priority Draining Kiss. It's a game plan that I've actually been a little bit skeptical of because Comfey in the end just doesn't have especially high stats. Triage is very strong, but that is balanced by Comfey's stats. And so sometimes that game plan has been just too slow to get set up and actually do damage, but we have seen it put in work some weeks. Then, just like last season, they're able to set up the Swamp combo with Pledge moves for speed control, so that's a combination of Grass Pledge and Water Pledge, but where last season they used Empoleon and Bayleaf to do that, this season it's a faster Water type in Greninja and a harder hitting Grass type in Venusaur. So a very dangerous combination there with those two Pokemon able to give them crazy speed control. They also can run Tailwind on Comfey if they want, though I don't think we've seen that, and it also gets Trick Room. They have a Fire Water Grass Core with Greninja, Venusaur, and Magmar. Magmar, of course, getting Follow Me and bulky with the Eviolite, able to use that little bit of redirection to open up more setup opportunities for Pokemon like Comfey, Garganacl, Blissey, and Archaludon. Then there's Actually, let's talk about Mian Xiao next. Of course, it gets Fake Out, it gets Wide Guard, so it's able to lend similar support. Plus, it's a fast physical attacker, which is something that this team is kind of lacking otherwise. But don't worry, they made sure they have that too. And it can keep itself healthy by running Regenerator if it wants. And then some of the Pokemon that they don't use so often, they have potentially a lot of special offense on this team with Pokemon like Archaludon, Greninja, Charjabug, Archaludon, Greninja, Venusaur, the Calm Mind Pokemon, even Ghastly. So Charjabug is here able to run Battery and make sure that not only are these Pokemon extremely bulky, but also their attacks hit that little bit harder. And then Altaria can cancel out Weather. It can boost itself up on the bulk in terms of bulk with Cotton Guard. It has a strong support move pool with moves like Will-O-Wisp, and then they also have Perish Song options if they want with Altaria and Ghastly, both able to get that move and bulky Pokemon that can help stall out those Perish turns. So an extremely versatile team that can play a lot of different game plans, but a lot of it comes down to just being extremely bulky and hard to break, and that has been working very well for them so far this season and last. The Garganacl and Blissey have been frustrating opponents all throughout the season. That said, there are some patterns in how they play this team, and we have seen some exploitable weaknesses come up in some weeks. This team last week, the Farmboys actually took a fairly quick 2-0 loss against the Florida Phalanx, who just focused on blasting through this team with Terra Fairy, Hyper Voice, Sylveon. So we did find an aggressive game plan with an attacker strong enough to break through. Granted, the Farmboys didn't bring Blissey to that matchup, and it might have been different with that or with Wide Guard Mian Xiao, but yeah, that opponent found something that worked with an offensive game plan, and I've forgotten who it was that beat them earlier in the season, but we have also seen that this team can have some issues with opposing Perish Song, since a lot of their game plans rely on the same bulky Pokemon sitting on the field for a long time and setting up with Calm Mind or wearing things down with Salt Cure. So that was basically my thought going into this matchup, that Perish Song has proven strong against this team in the past and was probably worth trying again. But that's about as deeply as I personally thought into the matchup, because I didn't play this week. Instead, Spooky took this one. We are going to be watching Spooky's replays here instead of live commentary from me. I do already know the outcome, but I haven't watched the replays yet. But before we do that, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of slides of all of my team building decisions, because I don't know the team building decisions in that much depth this week. Spooky built the team and piloted it, but I am going to quickly cut right now to the open team sheet that I've made from Spooky's paste. And so here is the open team sheet I've made. I cut out the EV spreads and whatnot to make it presentable here on PokePaste with my OBS settings, but the gist is there is a lot of special bulk on this team, which makes sense against an opponent who uses a lot of special attackers. In particular, Calm Mind setup Pokemon, as well as Pokemon like the Venusaur and the Greninja. But there is a fair bit of mixed bulk throughout this team, probably based on calcs that I haven't done and don't know what they are, but a lot of special bulk. And then the Salamence is all in on being a special attacker, very much being the main offensive component of this team. But you can see that Spooky did go with the Perish Song game plan here, running Perish Song, Sap Sipper, bulky Azumarill. So with Sap Sipper, it can take a grass attack from the Venusaur. Terra Ground will then cover for something like an Electro Shot out of our Archaludon, or Sludge Bomb from Venusaur, right? Gets rid of both of Azumarill's other weaknesses apart from Grass. And yeah, and then a lot of the team is built out to support Azumarill. So the Morgrem here with the Covert Cloak, so it can't be flinched by Mian Xiao. Able to... Don't know why its Terra type is dark, but okay. Able to give the Fake Out support, Parting Shot, of course, to weaken attackers on a team that, for all that I've talked up, the Farmboys roster doesn't have a ton of strong attackers and tends to rely on setup to generate offense. Parting Shot can disrupt that very effectively. The other thing that can disrupt that very effectively is Torment, a move that, if you're not familiar with it, because it doesn't see a lot of play, prevents the Pokemon that's hit by it from clicking the same move on consecutive turns. My actual best guess as to what it's doing here is that a lot of the Farmboys roster relies on setup and recovery options, so the Pokemon can be limited in what attacking moves they run. If they only have one attack that's useful for targeting the specific matchups on the other side, then Torment can make it a lot slower for them to get those attacks going, and can make it easier to play around any kind of counterattack from that team just by using Protect, right? Because let's say the Garganackle has only Salt Cure as an attack. I don't know if you can Torment Garganackle. I don't remember what Purifying Salt does exactly. Maybe that's a bad example. Let's say the Blissey has only one attack. If you Torment it, then you can just Protect every time it's able to attack, and then it can't attack on the next turn. You don't have to worry about your Protect failing. That's what I'm trying to get across about Torment. We have the Trap component of Perish Trap here with the Gothorita, also running its own Fake Out, and then Psychic Noise is here to... So Psychic Noise, of course, it's not only Psychic type damage, but it's also a temporary heal block that can shut down some of the recovery on the other side. It can shut down the Comfey's Triage boosted moves in particular. And as Spooky was discussing on the Discord after the set, it can force out Protects while they stall out the heal block effect. It doesn't last very long. You can Protect around it. But in doing that, they're once again throwing away some initiative that they could be using to try to break out of the Perish Trap. So Psychic Noise could be very useful in that sense. We got Sinistra doing Sinistra things, redirecting and healing teammates with Hospitality and Life Dew. We have an Iron Defense Body Press kommo-o here, able to play a bulkier game than most of the kommo-o sets we've been running this season, while still being an offensive threat and an alternative to a Perish Song focused game plan, specifically with Terra Fire here helping to cover for the weakness into especially the Comfey. And then there's this Eject Pack Salamence Terra Dragon, so able, if they want to hit extremely hard with a boosted Draco Meteor, and then Eject Pack out immediately to get rid of the special attack drop, come back in, hit just as hard later. It also is a way to pivot in Gothorita or something like that, so it can potentially, or Sinistra to heal something like a Azumarill. So I could see Salamence enabling the Perish Trap mode in some ways as well, and it also sets Tailwind on this team. And it has Intimidate. So, you know, like I said, Spooky's running a lot of special bulk this week, so having Intimidate can help to cover for a surprise physical attacker or something like that. And so now that we've looked over the team, all that's left is to go watch the replays. And so here we are. They played this one pretty early. It was the first set played this week by potentially a good margin. It's still the only one at the time that I'm recording this. And as I think we've established, I don't know all of Spooky's game plans in detail. I took a quick look at the pace when I woke up the day they played, and then next thing I knew they were playing, or that's how it feels at least. But as established, I already know the outcome of this set. I do not know exactly what happened. We'll just have to find out Spooky's game plans as we go. On the other side, the Varsity Farmboys have actually left the Garganackle behind, which surprises me. That's really felt like their favorite Pokemon, other than maybe Comfey in recent weeks. But I guess anticipating maybe Clangorous Soul kommo-o that Spooky and I have been running very often, and maybe because I've already shown that I'm willing to bring the special Salamence some weeks, we do see the Blissey here. Our Chaladon is here, probably looking to answer a physical Azumarill. Plus, it can just stand up to the dragon types on our side pretty effectively. Then we've got Greninja and Venusaur. I could definitely see a speed control plan with those two Pokemon. Mienshao possibly running Wide Guard to stop clanging scales, but also just the fake out support and whatnot could be difficult for us to deal with for sure. And then Comfey makes a lot of sense into our double Dragon Core, especially since we know that they like to play Comfey as a setup win-con. So that all looks pretty straightforward at face value, but yeah, we'll jump in and we'll see what happened here. As the Farmboys lead Greninja and our Chaladon against Spooky's Azumarill and Morgrem. So if you're the Varsity Farmboys, you probably like this position a fair bit at face value. Our Chaladon, especially if they boost it with a side Water Shuriken, is looking like a very comfortable Azumarill answer. And it's hard to see what on our side, you know, from a perspective that hasn't seen our paste, it's hard to see what on our side is threatening that right now. But Azumarill goes straight for the Terra Ground, maybe looking to cover for a Power Herb Electro Shot. That would make sense, I think. It is a little bit... Well, but then you don't think the Greninja is going to attack Azumarill this turn. So yeah, I see it. Morgrem goes straight for a Parting Shot into our Chaladon and brings Gothorita in. So Spooky going for the Perish Trap immediately, as we do actually see Greninja setting the manual Rain Dance. I'm not sure they've done that before this season, but there it is. And the Terra Ground on Azumarill actually coming through there to stop the Electro Shot from our Chaldon. So very good call there by Spooky. The Perish Song is up. Gothorita is in. The Perish Trap is already underway. We also see that both Pokemon on the other side are faster. This isn't the end game. That doesn't matter. Okay, so we got kommo-o coming in, but it's Terra Ghost Greninja. That may have been part of the Perish Trap answer for the Farmboys, because obviously they know that our team can run that game plan and that they've had issues with Perish Song in the past. You would expect them to bring some kind of counter. With the Terra Ghost, of course, Greninja will be able to switch out of the Shadow Tag because Ghost types can't be trapped. Gothorita going for Fake Out into our Chaldon. Okay, stopping it from moving, giving it a stamina boost, not that big a deal. kommo-o taking this Water Shuriken very nicely. Greninja looking to attack while it can, and then, like I said, it will be able to switch out at the end of the Perish counter. It just switches out immediately, actually. Comfey is in. No Perish counter on it, as Spooky protects through this turn. Our Chaldon, of course, at neutral special attack now because it has taken a Parting Shot drop, but also an Electro Shot boost. Now kommo-o switching out on the last turn Perish Song. It's actually a double switch by Spooky, so Azumarill and Morgrem are back. Comfey just going for the Calm Mind. Our Chaldon going for one more Electro Shot, but good switch by Spooky, getting the Azumarill in there. Once again, that ground Terra type really coming in handy as it's completely stopped two different attacks in this game, and our Chaldon will drop to the Perish Song now. We see Greninja come in. Azumarill actually switching out to Gothorita, probably trying to avoid a rain-boosted Water Shuriken, but that means no Perish Song right now, as the Comfey is still setting up. It will at least take a Fake Out this turn, although I wouldn't be shocked if it has a Covert Cloak. Let's see. Yeah, it does. Okay. Morgrem goes for Parting Shot into Greninja. Now Azumarill can get back in, but Greninja has the rain set back up, so it will be getting that rain boost again. And Azumarill doesn't take very much from that +2 Draining Kiss. Again, that's kind of the issue with Calm Mind Comfey, which will now take a Psychic Noise. But Azumarill switching out once again, Spooky pivoting around, looking, I guess, to avoid a situation where Azumarill is taking a lot of damage very quickly from this Greninja. That said, with Farmboys still having 3 Pokemon left and Greninja still able to switch out of the Shadow Tag, if I'm Spooky right now, I'm definitely worried about losing to Greninja in the end game. I'm not sure that I see the vision on how to beat it. Maybe the Gothorita needs to be clicking Psychic Noise into that slot instead, but even then, Morgrem's only attack is Fake Out. Azumarill has Play Rough, I think. But yeah, I'd be very worried right now if I'm in Spooky's position that I don't have a way to beat this Terra Ghost Greninja. So that was a very good bring by the Farmboys, but we'll see what happens from here. Water Shuriken into Morgrem. Gets 4 hits, chips it pretty nicely, and then Draining Kiss from Comfey will get the KO, so there will not be another Parting Shot into Greninja. kommo-o's attacks are Body Press and Flamethrower, so actually, I mean, Body Press does nothing to Ghost Greninja, so Flamethrower is probably your best way to do damage to it, but since it's faster than anything else and can keep setting up Manual Rain, even that's a lot to ask for. But Azumarill's coming in here. Greninja protects, and so does kommo-o. Azumarill just switched in, though. It can't click Perish Song this turn. And kommo-o can't Terrastallize, so it's threatened by that Draining Kiss. Azumarill does now take that Water Shuriken. A crit on the first hit. But only 2 hits, so no loaded dice on the Greninja, I guess. Have we seen its item? Anyway. There's another Perish Song, but Greninja is able to switch right out of that, and here's Blissey. Azumarill protects. Azumarill would like, I think, to land another Perish Song here, but then it's still hard to beat the Greninja in the back. But, I mean, that's the way to remove the Blissey. Oh, you can also Body Press Blissey. Azumarill goes for Endure, and Comfey hits it with Draining Kiss after Endure fails. Blissey now setting up Calm Mind. Probably want to think about another Perish Song, although Azumarill doesn't really have time now. It's at low HP. It would drop to this Draining Kiss. It switches out, but then kommo-o takes the Draining Kiss. And as scuffed as it is, I think kommo-o might have been the best way to beat Greninja at this point, because Azumarill is going to drop to a Water Shuriken. I mean, that probably, like I said before, probably just means that Greninja wins at this point. But they don't even need to Water Shuriken. Greninja able to go for the Ice Beam. And the Varsity Farmboys take game 1. And I do want to talk about one thing that happened there. I meant to talk about it in the team builder section, and I forgot, but it was this turn where Azumarill used Endure and it failed. There was a lot of discussion about this in the Discord after the set. To be honest, I didn't know this interaction before they played, and I didn't think much of it when I sleepily looked at the paste earlier in the morning. But much like other protection moves, so first of all, if Endure is a move that doesn't see a lot of play, right? But it is a protection move of a sort. Instead of stopping all damage or stopping all of some other effect, what it does is guarantee that the Pokemon will survive any attack during that turn. So any attack that would knock it out, we'll leave it at 1 HP instead, even if it's already at 1 HP. This is not a move that generally sees a lot of play since almost everything learns Protect. Way back in the day, like Gen 3, people would use it to set up a Salac Berry and boost the move Reversal, which gains power as the user is at lower HP. More recently, probably it's the only recent serious VGC use that I can think of for Endure is on Toxic Orb Tatsugiri, where you use a side Final Gambit or Explosion to get Tatsugiri down to 1 HP so that it will faint very quickly once it's in Dondozo's mouth, and then you can get another Pokemon in next to Dondozo. Very niche move. What I think Spooky was trying to do here was Protect, alternate Protect and Endure. Protect, and then when Protect might fail the next turn, use Endure instead. Unfortunately, what I wasn't sure of, and I don't think Spooky was either, is that Protect as one of the protecting moves, like Detect, like Burning Bulwark, and so on, does use the same counter as Protect. So if you've just used Protect, your Endure does have that 1 in 3 chance to fail. Excuse me, 2 in 3 chance to fail, 1 in 3 to succeed. And so that's what happened here. The Azumarill tried to alternate Protect and Endure, but didn't hit the 1 in 3 odds, and Endure failed. I guess not that it actually mattered this turn, because Azumarill wasn't knocked out anyway, and the only thing Endure would do is enable it to survive on 1 if it were knocked out by something. So that didn't really matter to this turn, but it does mean that Azumarill has a move slot that maybe is not as useful as Spooky had in mind. In any case, the bigger problem in this game, I'd say, was the Terra Ghost Greninja, which slowed down the effectiveness of the Perish Trap by just being able to switch out of it every time, and then was an offensive threat that once Azumarill had terrestrialized into a ground type, Spooky had no answers for. And I liked that Terra because Azumarill avoided 2 Electro Shots and took no damage from them and was able to hang around until to the late game. But in the bigger picture of this game, I don't know, because Kommo-o was never safe against the Priority Draining Kiss from the Comfey once it wasn't able to terrestrialize. And, you know, Azumarill could be a Greninja check, but by turning itself into a ground type, it was not able to do that anymore. I almost wonder whether a Wakanberry Azumarill, like I used just because I couldn't think of another item last week. I mean, again, it's tricky because then you can't switch it in on that second Electro Shot, and you don't get Citrus Berry recovery. So very hard to think all of these interactions through. But yeah, that Terra Ground on the Azumarill made the team very vulnerable to Greninja last game. And Salamence and Sinistcha are not great Greninja answers either. So it'll be interesting to see how Spooky adjusts in Game 2. Actually, looking it over, this whole team is kind of Greninja weak. Oh yeah. I didn't play this one. It's easy for me to Monday morning quarterback here, chirp about a team that I didn't pilot myself, but we'll see what adjustment Spooky finds on the fly in Game 2. Mienshao leading with Comfey against Azumarill and Salamence. Okay. Salamence just protecting around a possible fake out, so does Azumarill. And there's the fake out into Azumarill. Comfey going for Calm Mind. The good news is there's no Greninja on the field right now, so unless it's Terra Ghost on one of these, which it could be, or even like U-turn Mienshao, there might be some more Perish Trap potential here. Comfey setting up immediately. Removing the Comfey would be nice, but here is Greninja switching in on a Draco Meteor. That's one way to deal with the Greninja. I don't know if Spooky saw that coming or was just trying to deal with the Mienshao. I mean, maybe you can anticipate that the Mienshao is going to switch out to something there. But catching the Greninja on the Switch is a very good start to this game, considering what a threat it is. Unfortunately, the Draco Meteor doesn't KO, but Greninja is not very safe in this set the rest of the way. And the Farmboys have not pressured out the Terra on Azumarill so far. We haven't seen the Venusaur or the Archaludon yet, so Azumarill able to take Greninja's attacks and hit back with a Play Rough potentially, and that, even though it's running Sap Sipper, Greninja is low enough that Play Rough should be able to clean it up, and that is potentially a way stronger start for Spooky than in Game 1. Salamence, of course, will be switched out by its Eject Pack here to Gothorita, okay. Azumarill just going for the Perish Song. Of course, the Greninja... Also, if you're Farmboys, you have to think now about whether you want to commit your Terra to Greninja or not, because Greninja could go down very quickly, right? Of course, as long as it's a Dark type, it can't be hit by Psychic Noise, but it is vulnerable to that Play Rough. Greninja does Terrasilize and avoids a Fake Out from Gothorita, sets the Rain Dance, and Comfey goes for the Floral Healing. They do have the Floral Healing this week, and most of that damage on Greninja just gone. Azumarill does land the Play Rough. It would have KO'd without the Floral Healing, but Comfey playing that familiar Comfey game, supporting the team. Greninja still looking like a nightmare to deal with. And of course it is able to switch out of this Perish Trap. However, Comfey is not, and removing the Comfey is still progress. Greninja's not recovering another way, I don't think. Gothorita, good protect there on the Water Shuriken. Azumarill misses a Play Rough into Greninja. That's really unfortunate. Again, the Play Rough isn't doing great damage without huge power, but you could keep the Greninja down to like half HP, and the Comfey is about to perish. You know, it's hard. It's a hard Pokemon to deal with in this matchup, but it gets more manageable if you land your Play Roughs. Unfortunately, Azumarill not landing that one. And now Greninja will switch out. Mienshao comes in, Gothorita out to Sinistcha, Azumarill out to Salamence. So Spooky left the kommo-o behind this time, which I think makes decent sense when it was under so much pressure from the Comfey and even the Ice Beam Greninja in the last game. And I think Salamence running the more offensive set, able to do more damage immediately, is already proving more valuable in this game. But Comfey lands the Draining Kiss into Salamence, does a lot of damage. Doesn't KO, but it does a lot of damage. Here's our Archaludon in the rain with Mienshao support. Salamence protecting around the Fake Out, but Sinistcha doesn't have to worry about Fake Out, and it looks like it's doing something else this turn. Takes an Electro Shot and just goes for Matcha Gotcha. Crits Archaludon for still not very much damage. Decent damage to Mienshao though. Greninja back in. Did they Draco Meteor the Greninja or the Mienshao slot again? No, Draco Meteor to Archaludon for less damage than you'd like, even with the Terra Dragon. Archaludon, of course, is running Stamina, not Stalwart, so the Electro Shot is redirected into Sinistcha, which takes it pretty well, but Archaludon is getting set up nicely already. Here's the Azumarill coming back in. Of course, Azumarill is not able to Terrasilize this game because Salamence already has, and in front of Greninja, I'm not sure you want to anyway. Farmboys now focusing on removing the Sinistcha. Don't manage it this turn. And Sinistcha chips the Greninja pretty nicely with Matcha Gotcha, but that's still not doing much to Archaludon. And Rage Powder here will make sure the Sinistcha drops this Ice Beam, which is probably targeting it anyway. That means Azumarill is going to have to take this Electro Shot at +3, and it doesn't take it. And it's just Gothorita and Salamence remaining. Greninja can't be faked out. Oh, it's carrying an Adrenaline Orb. That's what its item is. Adrenaline Orb Greninja. I don't know why you need that in this matchup. Our team is not especially fast, and Greninja has had a pretty obvious speed advantage the whole time and was probably always likely to. Maybe they're covering for a Tailwind game plan or even a speed boost Yanma or something. I don't know. But it is Adrenaline Orb Greninja. Gets the speed boost after the Intimidate. And do you just hope the Psychic Noise KOs here or what? Gothorita does survive that Electro Shot, and yeah, it is Psychic Noise into Greninja. Does a lot of damage, but it doesn't KO, and that'll do it. Salamence will drop to this Ice Beam, and then Gothorita to another Electro Shot. And that is GG's to the Varsity Farmboys. I've been talking up all season how difficult this team is to take on. And they proved it once again. And this might well be an opponent that we see in the playoffs. Of course, our Masquerainmen are now 4-3 on the season after this set. So next week we'll determine whether we finish at or slightly over 500, and it really might make a difference in such a competitive playoff race. I don't even know that we're locked to make the playoffs right now. We'll have to put in a solid effort next week. I think if we win next week, we should make the playoffs, but I'm not certain that we will if we lose. All of that said, yeah, this could easily be a matchup that we see again in the playoffs, and I don't know that I've gained much insight on how to crack it from this set. I mean, I'm definitely going into a possible rematch. I'm definitely going to be respecting that Greninja because that is a really hard Pokemon for our team to deal with. But yeah, Spooky saying here in the chat, I got pinned too quickly both times. Yeah, really solid synergies showing themselves throughout the Farmboys game plan there. Very flexible modes with the Greninja, Archaludon, Comfey trio in particular. Terra Ghost Greninja, just a nightmare Pokemon in this matchup. And we'll have to go back to the drawing board if we do see a rematch in the playoffs. But for now, we have to focus on making the playoffs. Props to Spooky for taking this very difficult matchup. It was very entertaining to watch, even though it didn't go the way we wanted. And I'll just have to get back in the kitchen and do what I can to make sure we win next week. In the meantime, it's probably going to be a while before I record the rest of this week's sets, but it'll go up on the usual schedule, and then we'll have a clearer picture of the last week of the season and what's on the line for each team from there.